My daughter-in-law took the gift I gave my son and said, "Cheap trash," and she threw it on the floor right there at Christmas dinner. Her mother laughed and looked at me with contempt. I did not say anything. I just withdrew my investment. I ordered the BMW to be repossessed and told her, "From now on, you are on your own." She went pale in that instant. It was 9:15 at night, December 24th. My house smelled of spiced cider and freshly baked turkey. There were 22 people sitting around that table, which I had decorated myself for 3 full days. Golden lights, poinsettias, embroidered tablecloths that I inherited from my mother. And in the middle of all that effort, of all that foolish hope I still kept in my chest, my daughter-in-law took my grandfather's watch, that pocket watch that had survived 4 generations of my family, and tossed it to the ground like it was an empty wrapper. "This," said Valerie, holding the blue velvet box between 2 fingers, as if it burned her. "Seriously, Elise, an old scratched watch." Her voice cut through the air. Conversation stopped. Someone dropped a fork. "It is cheap trash." Those 3 words came out of her mouth so naturally that it took me seconds to process what she had said. Then came the gesture. She took the watch, held it up for everyone to see, and let it drop. The noise was dry, final. I looked at my son. Matt was sitting next to her with his eyes glued to his plate. He did not look up. He did not say a word. His hands were shaking slightly, but he did nothing. Nothing. And then I heard the laughter. Grace Valerie's mother covered her mouth with one hand, but she could not contain the cackle. She looked at me from the other side of the table with those small eyes full of mockery. "Oh, Elise," she said between laughs. "Always so cheap. Couldn't you buy something decent for your son? Something that was actually worth it?" I felt the blood rushing to my head. I felt how the air became thick, how every pair of eyes at that table was watching me, waiting for my reaction. My sister Ophelia stood up immediately. "That is enough. Who do you think you are to—" "This is a family matter, Ophelia," Valerie interrupted her coldly. "Do not get involved where you are not called." The silence that followed was worse than any scream. I bent down slowly. I picked up the watch from the floor. The glass was broken. The face was intact but full of dust. I cleaned it with the napkin I had on my lap and put it in the pocket of my dress. Then I stood up. I did not tremble. I did not cry. Something inside me had broken too, but in a different way, in a definitive way. I took my phone out of the purse hanging on the back of the chair. Everyone was looking at me. Valerie was smiling smugly. Matt still did not look up. I dialed the first number. "Good evening, Mr. Sullivan," I said with a calm voice. "I am sorry to call at this hour. I need you to recover a vehicle. BMW 5 Series. License plates GDL789K. Tonight. Yes. Now." Valerie's smile began to fade. I dialed the second number. "Roger, it is Elise Miller." "Yes. Merry Christmas to you too. I need you to remove Matt Miller from all corporate accounts. Immediately. No, it is not a mistake. Do it now." Valerie stood up. "Wait, what are you doing?" I did not answer her. I dialed the third number. "Phone banking. Good evening. I need to freeze 2 cards in my name, ending in 456 and 8923. Yes, I am sure." "Mom." Matt finally spoke. "You are exaggerating. Valerie was just—" I looked at him. I really looked at him. And I did not recognize the man in front of me. "You had 38 seconds, I told him. 38 seconds while your wife trampled on the memory of your great-grandfather. Of my grandfather. Of the man who taught me everything I know, and you said nothing." My voice did not rise in volume. It was not necessary. "Valerie, Matt." I looked at them both. "From this moment on, you are on your own." Valerie let out a nervous laugh. "What does that mean? Are you going to kick us out? This is your house, isn't it? We live here too." "You can stay as long as you want," I replied. but you will not receive one more dollar from me." I walked over to where Richard, my lawyer, was sitting next to my sister. I touched his shoulder. "Richard, are you free tomorrow morning?" He nodded, understanding immediately. "I need to update my will." Valerie's face lost all its color, and there in that perfect instant of absolute silence, I knew I had made the best decision of my life. But to understand how I reached that point, to understand why that watch meant my red line, I must tell you the whole story, from the beginning. If this story touched something in your heart, stay until the end, because what comes next is going to leave you speechless. And if you want to keep listening to real stories like this, subscribe to the channel. My name is Elise Miller, and I am 67 years old. I was not born rich. I did not inherit anything easily. Every dollar I have in the bank carries the weight of my cracked hands and my sleepless nights. I grew up in Chicago in a small house behind a hardware store that eternally smelled of fresh paint and machine oil. My grandfather Ernest was the owner, a man with huge hands and few words who taught me more with his actions than with his advice. "Elise," he used to tell me while I helped him sort screws into wooden drawers, "honest work will never make you rich overnight, but it will give you something that easy money can never buy: dignity." That watch Valerie destroyed in my dining room was his. His father gave it to him when he opened his first hardware store in 1952. He used it every day of his life until he died, and he gave it to me when I was 17 years old. "You have an eye for numbers, sweetheart," he told me on his deathbed. "Take care of this business when I am gone." And I did. I married Robert Miller at 23. He was a good man, hard-working, shy, but consistent. We took charge of the hardware store together, and for 18 years we built something solid, not spectacular, but sufficient. We had a son, Matt, my only son. Robert died when Matt was 14, a massive heart attack while unloading sacks of cement on a Tuesday afternoon. He did not even make it to the hospital. I was left alone with a teenager, a hardware store that was sinking in debt, and a hole in my chest that I thought would never close. For 6 months, I did not know if we were going to survive. The suppliers demanded overdue payments. Customers were going to the big box stores. Matt cried every night asking for his dad. One early morning, sitting in the office of the hardware store, surrounded by unpaid bills, I took my grandfather's watch. I opened it. Inside, he had engraved something I had never paid attention to. "The value is in keeping going when everyone gives up." I closed the account books. I got to work. I renegotiated every debt. I looked for new suppliers. I learned to carry heavy loads myself when there was no money for employees. Matt helped me after school, dispatching nails and organizing the inventory. "We are a team, Mom," he would say to me with that smile he inherited from his father. It took us 3 years to get out of the hole, but we did it. By the time Matt turned 25, we no longer had one hardware store. We had 3, one in the city, another in Evanstown, and the third in Naperville. We employed 42 people. We were billing $3 million a year, all built with work, with early mornings, with difficult decisions and sacrifices that no one sees. I never remarried. I never had the time or the desire. My entire life revolved around 2 things: my stores and my son. Matt studied business administration. He was smart, responsible, affectionate. We saw each other every Sunday without fail. We ate pancakes at the house and then reviewed the business numbers together. "Someday all this will be yours, son," I would tell him while turning the pages of the balance sheets. "I do not want it to be mine, Mom," he would answer. "I want it to be ours, always." Those words filled my heart. I believed that nothing could break what we had built together. I believed that a son's love was unbreakable. But then she arrived. Valerie Sanders appeared in our lives 4 years ago at a construction materials expo at the convention center. Matt was 33 years old. She was 29, tall, thin. Dark, straight hair, always perfectly styled, expensive clothes, flawless nails, rehearsed smile. She introduced herself as a brand consultant for family businesses. She had elegant cards and a social media profile full of photos in luxurious restaurants, trips to Caribbean beaches and designer bags. Lifestyle influencer, she called herself, 180,000 followers. Matt was fascinated. I felt something cold run down my spine from the first moment she looked at me. Her eyes evaluated me up and down in 3 seconds, calculating, measuring, cataloging. She did not like me, and I did not trust her either. But my son was in love, or at least he thought he was. And what he did not know at that moment is that Valerie had not arrived in our lives by chance. She had arrived with a plan. The first 3 months were a perfect performance. Valerie was charming. She smiled at the right moment. She asked questions about the hardware stores with apparent genuine interest. She called me Ms. Miller with a tone of respect that I now know was pure theater. "Your son speaks wonders of you," she would tell me while we drank coffee in my living room. "You must feel very proud of everything you have achieved." And I, like a fool, softened. Matt brought her home every weekend. We had dinner together. She praised my food, although I noticed she barely tasted a bite. She always had some trendy diet, she always had an excuse, but there were things that did not fit. One afternoon, Matt casually mentioned that Valerie lived in an apartment on the Gold Coast, one of the most exclusive areas of the city. Rent $3,000 a month. "And what does she live on exactly?" I asked him that night when she left. "From her social media, Mom, she has sponsorships, collaborations with brands." Brands of what? Clothes, cosmetics, restaurants. I do not know exactly. That vagueness bothered me, so I did what any mother would do. I investigated. Her Instagram profile was flawless. Professional photos, captions in English and Spanish, tags from 5-star hotels and very expensive boutiques. But when I checked carefully, something did not add up. The comments were generic. The likes seemed real, but genuine interactions were scarce. And above all, none of those brands that supposedly sponsored her mentioned her on their own accounts. I asked my niece, Danielle, who works in digital marketing. "Auntie," she told me after reviewing the profile, "this smells like bought followers. Look at the growth patterns. And these photos in hotels. I bet they are from day visits or free trials. This does not generate the money she pretends." That night, I could not sleep. The next day, I invited Valerie to lunch. Just the two of us. "Tell me about your family," I said while we shared some burgers at a place near the store. Her face tensed for a fraction of a second before recovering the smile. "My mom lives in Texas. She is a widow like you. My dad died 6 years ago." "And what does she do?" She is retired. She has her pension." "Siblings?" "No, I am an only child." "And what did you study?" Another almost imperceptible pause. "Communications at State University." Everything sounded correct, but there was something in the way she answered as if she were reciting a learned script. "Valerie." I told her with as much warmth as I could fake. "I know Matt is very excited about you, and I just want him to be happy." She nodded with those eyes that did not smile even though her mouth did. "But I also want you to know something." I leaned slightly forward. "My son is all I have, and I have worked all my life to give him a future. So I need to be sure that whoever is by his side loves him for who he is, not for what he has." Her expression changed, only for an instant. A flash of something cold and calculating crossed her gaze. Then she let out a soft laugh, almost sad. "Miss Miller, I understand your concern, really, but I promise you that I love Matt. I am not interested in his money." Liar. I knew it in that moment, but I had no proof, only intuition. That night, I spoke with Matt. "Son, I think you guys should go slower. You barely know her." His reaction took me by surprise. "Why do you always do this?" "Mom," his voice sounded tired, frustrated. "You are never satisfied with anyone. No girlfriend of mine has been enough for you." "That is not true." "Yes, it is. Laura was not educated enough. Patricia was too quiet. And now Valerie. What is she too pretty? too successful. It is not that. It is just that something does not give me a good vibe. Something, he repeated with bitterness, something you cannot explain, just a feeling. Mothers have intuition. No, Mom, mothers overprotect. I am 33 years old. I am not a child anymore. Those words hurt me more than I expected. I just want you to be happy. Then let me live my life. He left my house, slamming the door. We did not speak for a week, the longest week of my life. When he finally called me, I heard something different in his voice, something new. Mom, I need to tell you something. My heart stopped. I asked Valerie to marry me, and she said yes. The world tilted under my feet when, last night, I want you to be the first to know. I should have screamed. I should have begged him to wait, but his voice sounded so happy, so excited. Congratulations, son, I murmured. If she makes you happy, then it makes me happy. Another lie, but this time I said it out of love. That night, sitting in my empty kitchen, I held my grandfather's watch between my hands. I do not know what to do, I whispered to the air. I do not know how to protect him without losing him. But it was already too late. Valerie had won the first battle, and I did not even know we were at war. Because what would come next was going to teach me that my worst suspicions fell short. The wedding was set for 6 months later, 6 months that Valerie used to transform herself into the perfect bride. She posted photos of her and Matt with mushy captions, "The love of my life, my future forever." Every image calculated to the millimeter. Her followers went crazy. The comments multiplied, and she responded to each one with that fake sweetness that already gave me nausea. But what happened away from the cameras was another story. "Ms. Miller, I need to speak with you," she told me one Saturday morning, appearing at my house without warning. She was carrying a thick folder. She opened it on my dining room table and began to take out papers. I was looking at options for venues for the wedding. Matt and I want something elegant, intimate, special. She showed me photos of an estate on the outskirts of the city. Impeccable gardens, fountains, ballrooms with crystal chandeliers. "It is beautiful," I admitted. "The complete package costs $45,000. My breath caught. 45,000. It includes everything. Banquet for 200 guests, premium open bar decoration, live music, a 5-tier cake." She spoke as if she were reading a menu. "Matt says that you wanted to help with the expenses." Yes, of course I want to contribute, but that amount, it is only once in a lifetime, Ms. Miller. Her smile did not reach her eyes. "Besides, you have 3 successful hardware stores. I know you can afford it." There it was, the first direct hit. She did not ask. She did not suggest. She assumed. "Let me talk about it with Matt," I said, trying to maintain my composure. "We already talked about it. He agrees. We just need you to confirm." I felt cornered in my own house. In the end, I accepted. Because refusing meant being the stingy mother-in-law who ruined her only son's wedding. $45,000. Almost everything I had saved that year. The wedding was exactly as Valerie planned it. Perfect for Instagram. Cold in person. I sat in the front row wearing a dress I bought especially for the occasion, watching my son marry a woman that I knew, in the bottom of my soul, did not love him. During the waltz, Matt looked for me and smiled. A genuine smile, happy, and I returned the smile, swallowing all my doubts. Because that is what mothers do. They smile even if they are breaking inside. The honeymoon was in Punta Cana. 2 weeks, all paid for by me, although that was never mentioned in the photos Valerie uploaded to her social media. When they returned, I expected them to look for their own place, an apartment, a house, their space. Instead, one afternoon, Matt arrived with 2 suitcases. "Mom, can we stay with you while we look for something?" Valerie was behind him, smiling. "It will only be a few months," she added. "The real estate market is super expensive right now." We need time to find something worth it. What was I going to say? No. Of course, son, this will always be your house. The months turned into a year, then 2, and staying temporarily transformed into a permanent occupation. Valerie began to change things. First it was small details, a new vase here, different cushions there. To modernize a little Ms. Miller with all due respect, but your decoration is very traditional. Then it was bigger things. She wanted to paint the living room gray instead of the beige I had chosen. It is more elegant, more contemporary. One day I arrived from work, and the photo of my wedding with Robert, which had been on the living room wall for 25 years, was no longer there. Where is my photo? I asked, trying to stay calm. I put it away in your room, Ms. Miller. It is just that it makes the room look like a museum. We need more neutral spaces. Museum. She called my history a museum. Matt was there listening to everything. He said nothing. That photo goes back to its place, I said firmly. Valerie sighed dramatically. Whatever you say. But the damage was done. The message was clear. This was no longer my house. It was hers. And then Grace arrived. Valerie's mother appeared one Thursday afternoon with 3 large suitcases. Mom had problems with her landlord in Texas, Valerie explained. They evicted her. She needs to stay with us for a while. They did not even ask me. Grace was a 58-year-old woman, round with a shrill voice and constant opinions. She installed herself in the guest room as if it were a hotel. She never offered to help with anything. She did not cook. She did not clean. She spent her time watching soap operas and criticizing everything I did. Oh, Elise, you still use that blender. Is it that old? Elise, you should change those curtains. They look like they are from the 80s. Why don't you hire someone to help you with the garden? It looks neglected. And Valerie seconded her in everything. They laughed together. They whispered in low voices when I passed by. They looked at me as if I were the intruder in my own house. Matt worked at the hardware stores, but we no longer had those Sunday breakfasts. We no longer reviewed the business numbers together. I am tired, Mom. Valerie and I want to rest on the weekends. Rest, with my money, in my house. Because although Matt still had a salary at the hardware stores, $3,000 a month, that money disappeared like water between fingers. One day, I checked the corporate accounts. Matt had access to a business card for expenses related to the business. The last movements froze my blood. Very expensive restaurants, clothing boutiques, a jewelry store downtown, $6,000 on a bracelet. I confronted him that night. Matt, what is this? They are gifts for Valerie, with the company card. Mom, we are married. What is mine is hers too. But this is not yours. It belongs to the company. It belongs to the hardware stores we built together. Valerie entered the living room at that moment. What is the problem, Ms. Miller? You don't want your son to give details to his wife. The problem is that. The problem, she interrupted me, is that you treat Matt as if he were still a child, as if he needed your permission for everything. Tears instantly welled up in her eyes, a talent she mastered to perfection. I just want you to accept me, to trust me, but you always see me as an enemy. Matt hugged her immediately. Okay, love, calm down. And then he looked at me with reproach. Mom, you need to stop controlling everything. That night, I cried in my room in silence, so no one would hear me because I was losing my son. And the worst thing is that he did not even realize it. The change was so gradual that I almost did not notice it. Like when you boil a frog alive. If you turn up the temperature all at once, it jumps. But if you increase it degree by degree, it stays there until it is too late. That was how I lost Matt. Sundays had been sacred for 33 years. Since he was a child, we ate breakfast together. Ranch-style eggs, sweet-bread pot coffee. We talked about everything about life, about business, about his dreams. But after the wedding, those Sundays began to be canceled. Mom, Valerie doesn't feel well. Better another day. Mom, we have plans with Valerie's friends. Mom, we need time for us as a couple. At first I understood. They are newlyweds, I thought. It is normal. But another day never came. The calls also changed. Before, Matt called me every day, just to say hello, to ask me how my day had been. Now, if I did not dial, days went by without talking, and when I did, the conversations were short, cold. Is everything okay, son? Yes, Mom, just busy. Busy with what we can meet, too. We will talk later. I have to hang up. Click. One Saturday, my friend Letitia invited me to lunch. We went to a restaurant downtown, and while we waited for the dishes, she put her hand over mine. Elise, what is happening between you and Matt? Why do you ask? I saw him last week at the grocery store. With Valerie and her mom. I spoke to them. I said hello. Matt barely turned to look at me. And when I mentioned your name, Valerie changed the subject immediately. I felt a lump in my throat. They are very busy, I guess. No, Elise, this is something else. Something is not right. That same night, I decided to do something I had never done. Check Valerie's social media more carefully. There were recent photos, a family gathering in my own house, a dinner with friends, an afternoon of movies in the living room. I was not in any of them, literally, in my house, in events that were organized under my roof, and I did not appear in a single image. I kept checking. I found a complete album titled Family. Valerie with Matt, Valerie with Grace, Valerie with cousins I did not even know, Valerie with friends of both. Not a single photo of me. It was as if I did not exist. I decided to talk to Matt, face to face, without Valerie in the middle. I waited for him one afternoon outside the Evanston store. When he came out and saw me, his expression was not of joy, it was of annoyance. Mom, what are you doing here? I need to talk to you alone. He sighed. Okay, but make it fast because I agreed to pick up Valerie. We went to a nearby coffee shop. I ordered 2 coffees that neither of us touched. Matt, I feel like I'm losing you. Don't start, Mom. Let me finish, please. My voice cracked. We don't talk anymore. We don't see each other anymore. And when we are together, I feel like you are miles away. It is just that you don't make it easy. Me. What did I do? You constantly make Valerie feel bad with your comments, with your looks, with your attitude. What comments? What attitude? She tells me everything, Mom, how you correct her, how you criticize everything she does, how you make her feel she is not enough for me. I stayed mute because none of that was true. Matt, I would never. I know it is hard for you. Okay, I know that for years it was just you and me, but I grew up. I have my own family now, and I need you to respect that. Your own family? I repeated, feeling how the words cut me. And what am I? That is not what I meant. Then what did you mean? He ran his hands through his hair, frustrated. You meant that I am no longer part of your life, that Valerie is your priority. And me, I am just the lady who lives in the same house, the one who pays the bills, the one who keeps the business running while you spend on luxuries. Now you are exaggerating. Exaggerating, Matt. I have covered more than $85,000 in expenses that are not mine. The BMW, the clothes, the trips, the restaurants, the jewelry. I pay for everything while Valerie shows off a life on social media that she does not pay for herself. His jaw tensed. Not everything is about money, Mom. You are right. It is not about money. It is about respect. It is about valuing what one has. It is about... My phone vibrated. A message from my trusted employee, Rosie. Ma'am, Elise. Did you authorize Valerie to use the company truck to go shopping? I felt my blood boil. I showed the message to Matt. Did you also give her access to the vehicles? She is my wife. What is wrong with that? That they are not yours to give away, Matt. They belong to the company. You are impossible. He got up from the table. I cannot talk to you when you are like this. Like this. How defending what I built with my own hands. Controlling, manipulating. making everyone feel guilty. Those words went through me like bullets. I have to go? And he left. I remained sitting in that empty coffee shop, watching my coffee get cold, feeling how everything I had built was crumbling. 2 weeks later, I discovered something worse. Danielle, my niece, sent me screenshots, Instagram stories of Valerie that were only visible to close friends. In one of them, she was in my living room with Grace and 2 friends of hers, glasses of wine in hand. The text said, "When your mother-in-law goes to work and you can finally breathe." The comments were worse. "Oh, friend, what patience you have. Just kick her out of her own house, ha 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 ha. Let her go to a nursing home, she already served her time." And Valerie had reacted with laughing emojis to every comment. I cried so much that night I thought I was going to dehydrate, but the worst was yet to come. One afternoon, I arrived home early. I had closed a big sale and wanted to share the news with Matt. I thought maybe we could reconnect. Upon entering, I heard voices in the kitchen. Valerie was on a video call. She had the speakerphone on. "I can't take it anymore here, I swear," she was saying with a tired voice. "She is unbearable. All the time watching, all the time with her comments." "And what does Matt say?" asked the voice on the other side. "Matt does what I tell him. I almost have him convinced. In a few months, all this will be ours. We just have to wait a little longer. And if she leaves you out of the will?" Valerie let out a laugh. "She is not going to leave her only son with nothing. And when Matt inherits, I inherit. That is how it works." I stood paralyzed in the hallway. Everything clicked in that moment. Every detail, every manipulation, every fake tear. She never loved me. She never loved Matt. She just wanted what she could get from us. I backed away in silence. I left the house. I got in my car and drove aimlessly for hours. When I finally returned, it was already night. Valerie and Grace were in the living room watching television as if nothing happened. "Good evening, Ms. Miller," Valerie said with that perfect smile. I returned the smile because I had learned something from her. I could act too. And while I headed to my room, an idea began to form in my mind. If she could play, I could too. But my rules were going to be very different. November arrived with an unusual cold for Chicago. I kept smiling. I kept being kind. I kept behaving like the naive mother-in-law Valerie thought I was. But inside, something had changed. I was no longer the woman begging for attention. I was no longer the mother desperate to get her son back. I was a businesswoman who had survived the death of her husband, debts-abusive suppliers, 30 years in a market dominated by men. And if life had taught me anything, it was this. Never underestimate a woman who has nothing left to lose. I began to document everything, every unjustified expense, every misuse of company resources, every credit card, every invoice, every bank transfer. I asked my accountant Roger to prepare a detailed report of the last 3 years, confidential, for my eyes only. When he handed me the folder, I had to sit down. $85,000. That was the exact amount I had covered since Valerie entered our lives. The wedding, $45,000. The BMW that Matt drove but that Valerie used as hers. Monthly payments that added up to $16,000. Credit cards, $20,000. Clothes, restaurants, trips, jewelry, spa, beauty salons, the rest. And Matt had no idea of the real magnitude because Valerie managed his money. She checked his statements. She controlled every dollar that came in. "To better manage our expenses," she had told him. How convenient. One night, while reviewing those numbers in my office, my sister Ophelia called me. "Elise, are you okay? You seem strange lately." "I am fine." "Liar. I have known you since you were born." "What is going on?" And then, for the first time in months, I broke down. I told her everything. The manipulation, the isolation, the conversation. I heard the numbers I had just discovered. Ophelia remained silent for a moment. "And what are you going to do?" "I don't know yet, but something has to change." "Well, I support you in whatever it is, but be careful, sister. That woman is dangerous. I know. That is why I have to be smarter than her. December arrived, and with it the social pressure of the holidays. Valerie began to talk about the Christmas dinner weeks in advance. This year we should do something big, Ms. Miller. Invite the whole family, my friends too. It would be perfect for my social media. Of course, her social media. Sounds good to me, I said calmly. I will take care of everything. Her surprise was evident. She expected resistance. Really? Of course it will be my Christmas gift for you guys. The following days, I dedicated myself to planning. I hired a catering service. I bought decorations, Christmas lights, a huge tree that reached the ceiling of the living room. I spent $2,000 on that dinner. Valerie supervised everything with a critical eye. These flowers are very simple, Ms. Miller. You should put white roses. The table looks very traditional. It needs a more modern centerpiece. Are you not going to hire a professional photographer? All my friends are going to want photos. I nodded to everything. I smiled. I indulged. Grace also had opinions. Oh, Elise, that tablecloth is very old. Don't you have something more elegant? Are you going to make that dry turkey you made last year? You should order one from those fancy restaurants. I ignored them. I continued with my plans. But there was something more important than the dinner. The gift. I had thought a lot about what to give Matt. It needed to be something meaningful, something that communicated everything I could not say with words. One afternoon, I opened the safe in my bedroom. There, wrapped in navy blue velvet, was my grandfather's watch. I had put it away after Robert's death. It was too painful to see it, too many memories. I took it out carefully. I cleaned it with a soft cloth. The metal shone under the light. On the back was still the inscription my great-grandfather had ordered, engraved in 1952. The value is in keeping going when everyone gives up. I opened the watch. Inside, my grandfather had pasted a tiny photo. He and my grandmother the day they opened the first hardware store. Young, smiling, full of hope. I ran my finger over the glass and tears fell without permission. This watch had seen 4 generations of honest work, of early mornings, of sacrifices, of dignity. And now I would hand it to the 5th generation, to my son, as a symbol of forgiveness, of continuity, of faith that I could still get him back. I bought a new box, of walnut wood with brass hinges. I had the interior lined with wine-colored silk, and I wrote a letter. Matt, this watch belonged to your great-grandfather Ernest, then to your grandfather, then to me, and now it belongs to you. Every scratch on its surface tells a story. Every mark is a day of work. Every second it marks is a heartbeat of our family. I give it to you not because it is valuable in money. I give it to you because you are the continuation of everything they built. You are my pride. You are my legacy. And no matter what happens, you will always be my son. With all my love, Mom. I folded the letter and placed it inside the box next to the watch. The night of December 23rd, I could not sleep. Something in my chest told me that something was going to go wrong. A hunch, a feeling. I got up at 3 in the morning and walked through the house in silence. Everything was ready. The table set, the lights on, the gifts under the tree. I stopped in front of a family photo that still hung in the hallway. Matt was 12 years old. Robert was hugging me by the waist. The 3 of us were smiling. Give me strength, I whispered, because I think tomorrow everything is going to change. I did not know how right I was. The morning of the 24th arrived cold and cloudy. Valerie came down to breakfast in a fitted red dress, heels, perfect makeup, at 9 in the morning. Today is going to be epic, she said while taking a photo in front of the tree. I can feel it. Grace appeared behind her, laughing at something on her phone. Matt came down last. He looked tired, haggard. Good morning, Mom. Good morning, son. I wanted to hug him. I wanted to tell him so many things, but I just smiled at him. Ready for tonight. He nodded vaguely. And while I watched the three of them laughing in the living room, oblivious to them as always, I held the box with the watch between my hands. I did not know that in a few hours that piece of metal and memories was going to become the line that would separate my life into a before and an after. That night everything I had endured in silence was going to explode. That finally I was going to defend myself. And that when I did, there would be no turning back. The guests began to arrive at 7 in the evening. My sister Ophelia was the first. She brought her husband Richard and my nieces Danielle and Camilla. She hugged me tight at the door. "Are you sure about this?" she whispered in my ear. "There is no turning back now," I replied. My cousins arrived. My friends, close family friends, acquaintances from the business. In total, 22 people filled my house with laughter and hugs. Valerie was in her element. She posed for photos. She hugged every guest as if they were lifelong friends, even though she barely knew some of them. Her phone kept buzzing with notifications. "I am uploading everything live," she told one of her influencer friends whom she had also invited. "My followers are going crazy with the decoration." Grace walked around the living room with a glass of wine, opining on everything. "Oh, but how pretty this turned out, although I would have put the lights differently. More modern, right?" I breathed deep. I smiled. I served drinks. At 8, we sat down to dinner. The table was beautiful, I have to admit. White porcelain plates, silver cutlery, crystal glasses reflecting the tree lights, the turkey in the center golden and steaming. Matt sat on my right, Valerie next to him, Grace across from me, because of course she had claimed that spot. Before starting, I said, raising my glass, "I want to thank everyone for being here. Family is the most important thing we have, and tonight we celebrate that." "Cheers," everyone said in unison. Valerie looked at me. There was something strange in her expression, as if she were evaluating me. The dinner proceeded normally, cross conversations, laughter, Christmas music in the background. But I barely tasted a bite. My stomach was closed. My hands were sweating under the napkin I had on my lap because I knew what was coming. At 9:30, after dessert, Valerie tapped her glass with a spoon. "It is time for gifts," she announced with enthusiasm. "I want to start." She got up and took several boxes wrapped in gold paper from under the tree. "This is for you, Ms. Miller," she said, handing me one. I opened it. It was an apron with the phrase, "the best mother-in-law in the world." The laughter was uncomfortable. Ophelia looked at me with narrowed eyes. "Thank you," I said, putting it away. Valerie handed out more gifts. For Matt, an Italian leather wallet. For Grace, an expensive perfume. For her friends, brand name cosmetics. Everything was bought with money she had not earned. Then it was my turn. I had bought gifts for everyone. There were cashmere pashminas, silk ties, select wines, and jewelry that was simple yet elegant. When Valerie opened her gift, a Cartier bracelet that cost $5,000, her reaction was lukewarm. "Oh, thanks, I guess," she added. "It is cute." She did not even put it on. Grace opened her cashmere pashmina worth nearly $1,000, glanced at it briefly and left it on the table without even taking it out of the packaging. "How thoughtful," she mumbled without emotion. I felt the first sting of rage, but I swallowed it. Finally, I took out the walnut box. The entire living room went silent when I placed it in front of Mike. "This is for you, son." He took it carefully. His fingers traced the polished wood. "Mom, the box is beautiful. Open it." He did so slowly. First, he took out the letter. He read it in silence. I saw his eyes getting moist. Then he took out the watch. "Mom," his voice cracked, "is this Grandpa Ernest's watch? It belonged to him, to my grandfather, and to my father. Now it is yours." I explained the history to him, every generation that had worn it, every sacrifice it represented, every early morning, every difficult decision. This watch saw the birth of the hardware stores. It saw your father grow up. It saw you being born. And I want you to wear it remembering where you come from, remembering that everything we have was built with hard work and dignity. Mike held the watch with both hands. Tears were running down his cheeks. It is the best gift you have ever given me, Mom. He stood up to hug me, and then Valerie spoke. Can I see it? Mike, still emotional, passed it to her. Valerie took it. She examined it, turning it over. She frowned. Is this a Rolex and Omega? No, I replied. It is a Longines from 1952. They do not make that model anymore. And how much is it worth? The question hit me like a slap in the face. It is not about how much it is worth, Valerie. It is just that it looks very old, she interrupted. And it has scratches all over it. She held it up for everyone to see. I mean, it is nice for a museum, I guess. But as a Christmas gift, the air grew thick. What are you saying? Mike asked softly. Valerie let out an uncomfortable laugh. Do not get me wrong, babe. I know it has sentimental value, but it is just... She looked directly at me. Seriously, Eliza, an old scratched watch, is that the best you can give? Valerie, Mike warned, but she did not stop. I mean, you have 3 successful hardware stores. You have money to give me a Cartier bracelet, but for your only son, you give him cheap trash, cheap trash. Those words left her mouth and floated in the air like poison. I felt every pair of eyes at that table drive into us. That watch, I said with a trembling voice, has more history than anything you have ever owned in your life. History does not pay the bills, she responded coldly, and then she did it. With a quick, almost theatrical movement, she let the watch drop. The sound of metal and crystal shattering against the wooden floor resonated like a gunshot. Absolute silence. No one breathed. I looked at the watch on the floor. The crystal broken into pieces, the face down, and something inside me turned off. Grace was the next to speak. Through laughter, loud, mocking laughter. Oh, Eliza, always so dramatic. Could you not buy something decent? Something that was actually worth the trouble for your son? She covered her mouth with her hand, but her eyes danced with satisfaction. Ophelia stood up immediately. That is enough. Who the hell do you think you are? Sit down, Ophelia. Valerie cut her off. This is a matter between immediate family. Do not meddle where you are not called. I looked at Mike, my son, my only son. He was looking at the watch on the floor. His hands were shaking. His breathing was agitated. Mike, I said softly, say something. He looked up. He looked at me. Then he looked at Valerie. He opened his mouth, and he said nothing. 38 seconds. I counted them mentally. 38 seconds of silence while his wife had just destroyed his grandfather's memory, and he said absolutely nothing. I stood up from the chair with a calm I did not know I possessed. I bent down. I picked up the watch from the floor with care. I cleaned it with my napkin. I put it in the pocket of my dress. Then I took out my phone, and there in front of 22 witnesses I made the calls that would change everything. Decision and immediate execution. Justice begins. My fingers did not tremble when I unlocked the phone. The adrenaline ran through my veins like liquid fire, but my mind was clear, crystal clear, more awake than it had been in 3 years. I dialed the first number. Mr. Sullivan, the manager of the BMW agency where I had bought the car, answered on the second ring. Mr. Sullivan, good evening. This is Eliza Montgomery. Mrs. Montgomery, what a surprise. Merry Christmas. Same to you. I apologize for calling at this time, but I need you to repossess a vehicle. BMW Series 5, model year 2023, license plate GDL789K. Silence on the other end. Repossess? Was there a problem? I am the title holder, and I want you to pick it up tonight. Right now, if possible. Mrs. Montgomery, it is Christmas Eve. I will pay you triple the towing rate, but I want that vehicle off my property in less than an hour. Understood. I am sending the unit immediately. Valerie had stopped smiling. Her face was beginning to turn pale. Wait. What are you doing? I did not answer her. I dialed the second number. Roger, my accountant, answered with Christmas music in the background. Eliza, is everything okay? Roger, I need you to log into the system right now. Remove Mike Montgomery from all corporate accounts. All of them. Business cards, online banking access, authorized signatures. Everything. Now, Eliza, I am with my family. It is urgent, please. I heard a sigh. Then the sound of footsteps moving away from the noise. Give me 2 minutes. Thank you. Mike finally reacted. Mom, what are you doing? This is an exaggeration. I looked at him, and in that moment I did not see my son. I saw a stranger. Exaggeration. Your wife just threw your great-grandfather's watch on the floor. Your great-grandfather, and you said nothing. I was in shock. I did not know. You had 38 seconds, Mike. I counted them. 38 seconds to defend your family's memory, to defend your mother. And you chose silence. I dialed the third number. Telephone banking. Good evening. Eliza Montgomery speaking. Client number 4678829B. Good evening, Mrs. Montgomery. How can we help you? I need to freeze 2 credit cards additional to my account, ending in 4056 and 8193. Freeze or cancel? I looked Valerie straight in the eye. Cancel. You cannot do this. Valerie screamed, standing up from the table. Mike, say something, do something. Understood, ma'am. The cards will be canceled immediately. Anything else? That is all, thank you. I hung up. The dining room was in sepulchral silence. Only the Christmas music could be heard playing from the living room, oblivious to the earthquake I had just unleashed. I walked toward where Robert, my lawyer, was. I had invited him specifically because I knew I would need him. Robert. He nodded, understanding perfectly what was coming. Tomorrow at 9 in my office. I will be there. Perfect. I need to update my will. Valerie's face lost every trace of color. Even her perfectly applied makeup could not hide the paleness covering her cheeks. No, you cannot. I cannot what? I turned toward her. I cannot decide what to do with my money, with my estate, with the companies that I built. You are a bitter, manipulative old woman. She spat the words. All of this is because you have never accepted me, because you cannot stand that Mike loves me more than you. Love you. I let out a dry laugh. Valerie, you do not love Mike. You have never loved him. That is not true. I took out my phone again. I searched my voice notes. I found the recording I had made 3 weeks ago, that conversation I had heard when I came home early. I pressed play. Valerie's voice filled the dining room. I cannot stand it here anymore, I swear. It is unbearable, watching all the time, always with her comments. And what does Mike say? Mike does what I tell him. I almost have him convinced. In a few months, all this will be ours. We just have to wait a little longer. And what if she leaves you out of the will? Valerie's laugh in the recording was the worst part. She is not going to leave her only son with nothing. And when Mike inherits, I inherit. That is how it works. I stopped the recording. The silence that followed was deafening. Mike was looking at me with eyes wide open, as if he had just woken up from a dream. When his voice was barely a whisper. 3 weeks ago, I came home early from work. Were you at the hardware store? Your wife was on a video call with some friend, with the speaker on. Valerie tried to compose herself. That is out of context. I was out of context. Ophelia interrupted her, unable to contain herself anymore. What context justifies you saying that you are just waiting for my sister to die so you can keep everything? Grace also stood up. You people do not understand anything. Eliza has more money than she needs. Why can she not share it with her own family? Because Valerie is not my family, I said with a firm voice. She is an opportunist who saw an opening and took it. I took out the folder I had prepared. the one I had kept in the sideboard drawer days ago, waiting for the right moment. I opened it in front of everyone. In the last 3 years, I began to read, I have covered expenses for $85,000. Everything is documented here. Every restaurant, every trip, every piece of clothing, every jewel. The BMW, $16,000 in payments. The wedding, $40,000. Credit cards, $20,000. I passed the papers to Mike. This is what your wife has spent. This is what I have paid while she shows off a life of luxury on social media that she cannot afford. Mike reviewed the papers with trembling hands, page after page. His face went from shock to disbelief to rage. Valerie, is this true? Babe, I can explain. Is it true? She took a step back. Then she looked at her mother, then at me, and then she did the only thing she knew how to do. Cry. It is just that you never say no to me. Whenever I want something, you buy it. I thought that was part of being married to you. Part of being married. Mike let the papers fall. Spending $85,000 is part of being married. At that moment, the doorbell rang. It was the tow truck. Valerie ran to the window. She saw the driver getting out, checking the BMW parked in the driveway. No, not that car. She ran out toward the street, in heels, screaming. Some guests peeked out the windows. Others preferred to look away, uncomfortable. I stayed in my place, observing. Mike let himself fall into his chair, his head between his hands. "Who are you?" he whispered. "Who are you really?" And I, with the broken watch still in my pocket, replied, "I am the woman who just recovered her dignity." Outside, Valerie was screaming while the tow truck lifted the BMW, and I felt for the first time in 3 years that I could breathe. The tow truck took the BMW at 11:15 at night. Valerie came back into the house barefoot. She had broken a heel running down the street. Her perfect makeup was now a disaster of runny mascara and smeared lipstick. "You are a witch!" She spat the words at me. "A bitter old woman who cannot stand seeing her son happy." "Valerie, that is enough," Mike said with a tired voice. "That is enough. You stop it. You're a coward. You should have defended me. You should have put her in her place." "Defend you from what? From the truth." She looked at him with contempt. "You are a mama's boy. You always have been. I thought I could change you, but you are pathetic." The words fell like stones. Mike stood up slowly, and in his gaze I saw something I had not seen in 3 years. Clarity. "I think you should go to sleep. We will talk tomorrow." "There is nothing to talk about. Either you support me or nothing, Valerie. Go to sleep." She went up the stairs, stomping with Grace following her while muttering insults I did not manage to hear. The guests began to say goodbye. Uncomfortable hugs, words of support whispered. "You did the right thing," my friend Leslie told me on her way out. "That woman deserved this and more," added my cousin Fred. Ophelia was the last to leave. "Do you want me to stay?" "No, I need to process this alone." "Are you sure?" I nodded. She hugged me tight. "I love you, sister, and I am proud of you." When everyone was gone, I picked up the dishes, put away the food, cleaned the table. Mike helped me in silence. We did not speak. We just worked side by side as we used to do when he was a boy. At 1 a.m, we finally sat in the kitchen with hot coffee. "I am sorry, Mom." "Why are you sorry?" "For everything. For not seeing you, for not listening to you, for allowing you to be disrespected in your own house." His eyes were red swollen. "Mike, no, let me speak, please." He took a deep breath. I knew, deep down, I knew something was not right. But it was easier to ignore it. It was easier to blame you than to face the truth. And what is the truth? That I married someone I do not know. That I let myself be blinded by, I do not know, by her beauty, by the way she made me feel important, by the life she projected on social media. Social media is not real life, son. I know that now. He took a sip of coffee. When I saw those numbers, $85,000, I had no idea. I thought we were spending a normal amount. I thought we were sharing expenses. She was lying to me. She was manipulating me. The correction was important, and I let her because it was more comfortable not to ask. I put my hand on his. Love is not comfortable, Mike. True love challenges you. It makes you better. It does not empty you. He cried then, like I had not seen him cry since his father's death, and I cried with him. The following days were controlled chaos. On the morning of the 25th, Valerie came down for breakfast as if nothing had happened. "Good morning," she said with a forced smile. Mike and I were seated at the table. "Good morning," he replied dryly. She poured herself coffee, opened the refrigerator, took out her usual imported Greek yogurt. Then she took out her phone. She tried to order an Uber. "Why is my payment method not working?" Silence. "Mike, your card is not working either." "There are no more cards, Valerie." "What? My mom canceled them. Did you not listen last night?" I saw panic cross her face. She logged into her banking app. She checked. She checked again. "And how am I supposed to get around?" "Public transportation," I suggested, drinking my coffee. "Like millions of people in this city." She glared at me. That afternoon, Valerie went out with her friends, or at least she tried to. They picked her up in a car. They went to a restaurant at the upscale mall, one of those places with tiny plates and ridiculous prices. But when the bill arrived, her card was declined. "It must be a mistake," she said nervously. "Try this other one." Declined as well. One of her friends had to pay, with a tight smile and a "don't worry" that sounded like the complete opposite. Danielle told me later. She found out because Valerie's friend posted a story on Instagram. A photo of the receipt with the text, "When you invite a friend to lunch and she forgot her wallet." Valerie lost 200 followers that day. On December 26th, she tried to go shopping. She'd seen a dress in an exclusive boutique days before. She had it on hold, $350. When she arrived to pick it up, all her cards were declined. "I am sorry, ma'am. If you cannot pay today, we will have to return it to the sales floor." The humiliation was public. There were other clients. They recognized her from Instagram. The whispers began immediately. That night she came home furious. "This is abuse, financial abuse. I can sue you." "Sue me," I replied without looking up from my book. "With what money are you going to pay the lawyer? That part I do not know." Mike was in his room. He did not come down to defend her. On the 27th, Grace tried to mediate. "Eliza, let us be reasonable. You are family. We all make mistakes. All of us, or just your daughter." "Valerie is young. She is impulsive, but she loves Mike." "Valerie loves what Mike can give her. There is a difference." "You are very hard, and you people are very opportunistic." Grace was offended. She went up to her room, stomping like a spoiled child. That night, I heard Valerie and her mother arguing. "The walls of my house are thick, but their screams cut through everything. You promised me this was going to work, and it would work if you were not so stupid. I told you not to provoke her. She provokes me with her attitude. Now what are we going to do? We have no money." Interesting. We have no, plural. On the 28th, I observed something revealing. Valerie began to delete photos from Instagram. The ones of the BMW, the ones of expensive restaurants, the ones of the boutiques. Her carefully curated aesthetic was starting to crumble, and her followers noticed. No more luxuries. What happened to the car? "You look different lately." Every comment was a small wound to her inflated ego. On the 29th, Mike and I went to the hardware stores, all three of them. We reviewed inventory, checked accounts, spoke with employees. Rosie, my trusted manager, took me aside. "Mrs. Montgomery, it gives me pleasure to see you around here, and it gives me more pleasure to see young Mike working for real." "What do you mean?" "It is just that before, let us say, he came around little, and when he came, it was more to give orders than to work." Mike heard from afar. I saw how it hurt him. That night during dinner, he asked me, "Can I Can I start over in the hardware stores? Learn from the bottom as I should have done from the beginning? My heart swelled. I would love that son. Valerie came down just at that moment. From the bottom? Are you crazy? You are the owner's son. Exactly, Mike said. I am the son, not the owner, and I need to earn that place. This is ridiculous. Your mom is brainwashing you. My mom is opening my eyes. She let out a hysterical laugh. You know what? Do what you want. I am leaving. Where to? Anywhere far from this madhouse. She went up. She packed a suitcase. She came down with Grace following her. We are going to a hotel. With what money? I asked. She stopped. Her face fell apart, remembering she had no access to anything. She took out her phone. She called someone. She waited. Lupe, it is Val. Hey, can you lend me money for a hotel just a few nights while... Hello, Lupe. They had hung up on her. She tried another contact, and another, and another. No one answered. Finally humiliated, she went back up the stairs, and I knew with absolute certainty that the fall was just beginning. January arrived with a dry cold that cut the skin. Valerie and Grace were still in my house. Not because they wanted to, but because they had no alternative. The silence between us was dense. We ate at different times. They locked themselves in their room most of the day. I continued with my routine as if they did not exist, and it worked. Mike had started working at the downtown hardware store, the oldest location, the smallest one where my grandfather had started it all. I want to learn from where you learned, Mom, he had told me. I put him to carry boxes, to attend to customers, to sweep the warehouse, to do inventory. He left every day at 6 in the morning. He returned at 7 in the evening, exhausted with dirty hands, with clothes stained with dust and paint. Valerie saw him arrive and wrinkled her nose. I cannot believe you have lowered yourself to this. I did not lower myself. I elevated myself, he would reply before going to shower. One afternoon in mid-January, Valerie came down with a proposal. I need to talk to you, Eliza. It was the first time she called me by my name without Mrs. in front. Interesting. Speak. Look, I know things went wrong and I recognize that I made a mistake. I raised an eyebrow. Valerie admitting a mistake. But we cannot go on like this. This is not sustainable. I propose we make a deal. What kind of deal? You give me a monthly allowance. Not much. Let us say $1,500, and I promise not to spend on unnecessary things. I will be more responsible. I stared at her. And what do I gain with that deal? Peace, a united family, and I will try to be a better daughter-in-law. I smiled, not with kindness, with pity. Valerie, do you really believe your problem is solved with money? Everything is solved with money. There is your mistake. Money does not buy character. It does not buy humility. It does not buy true love. Then what do you want from me? Nothing. I do not want anything from you. She stood there processing my words. And I am supposed to live with nothing, like a homeless person. You are supposed to live like the majority of people, working, earning your own money. I work. I have my Instagram. Instagram is not work when your followers were bought and your sponsorships are lies. Her face turned red. How do you know that? Because I investigated it 3 years ago, and everything was fake, like you. She left the kitchen in a fury. 2 days later, I found Valerie crying in the living room. Not tears of manipulation this time. Real tears. It is over, she murmured, looking at her phone. What is over? Everything. They canceled me. On social media, someone uploaded a video of when my cards were declined at the restaurant, another one of the boutique. Someone else spoke about the tow truck taking the BMW at Christmas. She showed me her phone. The comments were ruthless. Fraud. Lived off her mother-in-law's money. Fake influencer. How pathetic. I already lost 200,000 followers. She sobbed. Brands are blocking me. No one wants to work with me. And that hurts you more than having hurt the people who opened the doors of their home to you." She looked at me with reddened eyes. "You do not understand. This was my life, my identity. Who am I without this?" "That is exactly the question you should have asked yourself 3 years ago." I sat next to her. Not close, but not far either. "Valerie, do you know what the difference is between you and me? That you are rich and I am not." "No." "That I built something real, something with my hands, something that survives beyond likes and followers." "I also built something." "You built an illusion, and illusions always crumble." She wiped her tears with rage. "And now, what are you going to kick me out?" "No, you can stay as long as you need, but with one condition." "Which one?" "That you get a job, real work, and that you start paying your share of the expenses of this house. Work me doing whatever it is, waitress, salesperson, receptionist, whatever you find. It is humiliating." "No. Humiliating is living 3 years off someone else's effort pretending that you earned it." She got up from the sofa and went up the stairs, but something had changed in her posture. Something small, almost imperceptible. 1 week later, Valerie got a job at a clothing store in a shopping plaza. Salary, $400 a week. She arrived home the first day with swollen feet, her pride wounded, and an expression I had never seen on her: humility. "It was horrible," she told Mike during dinner. "People are rude, my feet hurt, and the manager treats me as if I were stupid." "Welcome to the real world," he replied while serving rice. "Are you not going to console me?" "Why, my mom did this for 30 years. I am doing it now. It is part of life." Valerie looked at me expecting me to say something, to defend her, to pity her. I did not. February brought deeper changes. Grace announced she was returning to her hometown. Her pension had arrived and she had found a cheap room to rent. "I cannot stand this tension anymore," she told me the day she left. "But I hope you know that you ruined my daughter's marriage." "I did not ruin anything. I just stopped sustaining a lie." She left without saying goodbye. Valerie was left more alone, quieter, more present. She began to do things she had never done: wash her dishes, clean her room, buy her own things with her own money. One afternoon I found her in the kitchen trying to cook. "What are you doing?" "Pasta. Well, trying to. I do not know if it turned out okay." I tasted a bite. It was bland, but it was edible. "It is okay for your first time." Something resembling a smile crossed her face. "My mom never taught me to cook. We always ordered food or went out to eat." "It is never too late to learn." Those were the first kind words I directed at her in months. March brought the conversation we had all been avoiding. Mike and Valerie spoke, alone, for hours. When they came out of the room, both had red eyes. "Mom," Mike said. Valerie and I decided to separate. I did not feel triumph. I felt relief. "Are you sure?" "Yes," Valerie responded. Her voice was different, more mature. "I married Mike for the wrong reasons, and he deserves someone who loves him for who he is, not for what he has. And what will you do? I'm going to move in with a coworker. We will share expenses, and I am going to rebuild myself, the real person I should have been from the beginning." 2 weeks later, Valerie moved out. There was no drama, no screaming, only awkward hugs and words of farewell that sounded like silent apologies. When her Uber drove away, Mike and I stood by the driveway. "How do you feel, my son?" "Free, sad, but free." "That is good." "Is it?" "Yes. Freedom always hurts at the beginning, but later, it is the best thing that can happen to us." 6 months passed. Mike continued working at the hardware stores. Now he was already manager of the downtown location. He had earned the respect of the employees, the respect of the customers, and his own self-respect. I had started traveling. Small trips with Ophelia and my friends, to wine country, to the coast, to places I always wanted to see but never had time for. And one afternoon in September, Mike appeared at my house with something in his hands, the watch. I had it repaired, Mom. New crystal, complete cleaning. They even serviced the mechanism. I opened it. It worked perfectly. The constant ticking filled the silence. I have been wearing it every day, he said with a trembling voice, to remember, to never forget what I lost when I stopped valuing what I had. Tears ran down my face. Can I keep it? It is already yours, my son. It always was. We hugged, and in that hug, 3 years of pain healed. One Sunday in October, Mike and I resumed our tradition. Breakfast at home. Special Sunday breakfast. Pastries from Old Man Joe's bakery. Coffee prepared just how my grandmother taught me. Do you know what is the most ironic thing of all? He told me while spreading butter on a roll. Valerie taught me something important without meaning to. What is that? That true love does not ask you to give up who you are. It helps you be a better version of yourself. I smiled. That is an expensive lesson, my son. $85,000 expensive. He laughed, a genuine laugh that I had not heard since before his wedding. But it was worth every penny because it brought me back home, back to myself. That afternoon, while we were reviewing the hardware store books in my office, my phone vibrated. It was a message from Danielle. Auntie, look at this. It was a screenshot from Instagram, Valerie's profile. It was no longer a luxury influencer account. Now it was called Valerie Under Construction. The profile photo showed her without makeup hair tied back a shy but real smile. And her last post read, 1 year ago, I lost everything. My credibility, my marriage, my fake identity. It was the best thing that could have happened to me. Today I work in retail. I earn little. I live in a small apartment, and for the first time in my life, I sleep peacefully. Because what I have is mine, I earned it, and no one can take it away from me. To all those who still follow me looking for fake glamour, this is not that space. But if you are looking for honesty and real growth, welcome, we are learning together. It had 3,000 likes, and the comments were surprisingly positive. This is what I needed to see. Thanks for your honesty. Truly inspiring. I showed the phone to Mike. He read in silence. Then he nodded. I am happy for her, really. Do you miss her? I miss what I thought she was, but I do not miss the lie. He closed the accounting book and looked directly at me. Mom, there is something I need to tell you. Tell me. Forgive me. For everything. For making you feel like you were not enough. For allowing you to be disrespected. For choosing a fantasy over reality. I took his hand. I already forgave you, son, the day you picked that watch up from the floor and decided to repair it. But I need you to hear it from my lips. I was wrong. Terribly. And if I could turn back time, we cannot turn back time. We can only honor it by doing things better from here on out. He cried then. Tears of liberation, of healing, and I cried with him. Not out of pain this time, but of hope. November brought an unexpected surprise. Rosie called me on a Tuesday afternoon. Mrs. Montgomery, there is someone here asking for you. Who, she says she is Valerie. My heart skipped a beat. When I arrived at the Northside hardware store, I found her waiting in the reception area. She looked different, no excessive makeup. Simple clothes, jeans and a white blouse, comfortable shoes. But the most different thing was her expression. There was no longer arrogance, only nervousness. Eliza, thank you for seeing me. What do you need? She took a deep breath. I came to ask for your forgiveness. I know I have no right. I know there are no words that can erase what I did, but I needed to tell you in person. I waited in silence. I was terrible to you. I treated you as if you were a walking bank, as if your only purpose was to finance my fantasy life. And the worst part The worst part is that I convinced Mike that you were the problem when it was always me. Her voice cracked. I threw your grandfather's watch on the floor. I destroyed something priceless. And I cannot return it to you. I cannot repair that moment. Mike repaired it. The watch works perfectly. He did. A tear rolled down her cheek. I am glad, but I know there are things that cannot be repaired. Why did you come, Valerie? What do you really want? Nothing. I do not want anything. I just needed to look you in the eyes and tell you that you were right about everything, and that if I could turn back time, I would do everything differently. We stood there in the middle of the hardware store my grandfather built with his hands. Do you know what I learned in these months? She told me. That respect is not demanded, it is earned. That dignity does not come from what you have, but from who you are. And that true love is not what you can get out of someone, but what you are willing to give without expecting anything in return. Those are important lessons. I learned them from you, watching you, even though I never wanted to see you. She sighed. I do not expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that your words, your example, saved my life, because I was dying inside pretending to be someone I was not. I looked at her. Really looked at her for the first time without prejudice or pain, and I saw a young woman who had made terrible mistakes but who was trying to make peace with herself. I forgive you, Valerie. Her eyes opened with surprise. Really? Really? Because holding a grudge only hurts me, and I have already wasted enough energy on this situation. Thank you. Thank you, Eliza. She turned to leave, then she stopped. One last thing. Mike is a good man, and when he finds someone who truly deserves him, he is going to be very happy. I was never that person, but I am learning to be better for myself. That is all that matters. She left the hardware store. I watched her walk away down the street lighter, more real, and I also felt lighter. December arrived again 1 year after that Christmas that changed everything. This time I organized a small dinner, just Ophelia, her family, and Mike. When we sat at the table, I raised my glass. I want to propose a toast. I said, to second chances to recovered dignity and to learning that the most important love is self-love. Cheers, everyone said. Mike took something out of his pocket, the watch. Mom, I want to give this back to you. Why, it is yours. I know, but I want you to keep it until I have children, until I can pass it on to someone being the man my great-grandfather would have wanted me to be. I am still learning. I am still growing. My heart expanded in my chest. Are you sure? Completely. And when the moment comes, I will hand it over with the same letter you wrote me, because those words saved me. I took the watch in my hands. Tick-tock, tick-tock, the sound of 4 generations, soon to be 5. That night, after everyone left, I sat on the porch with a cup of hot chocolate. The Christmas lights twinkled softly. The city breathed with that special rhythm that only December has. And I thought about everything I had lived through, the pain, the betrayal, the humiliation, but also the strength I found when I thought I had nothing left. The dignity I recovered when I set boundaries, the peace I felt when I stopped chasing the love of those who did not know how to value it. I took the watch out of my pocket. I opened it. The photo of my grandparents smiled at me from inside. I did it, I whispered to them. I survived, and more than that, I blossomed. Because that is the truth I learned the hard way. You can give everything for love. You can sacrifice yourself. You can be generous to the point of exhaustion, but never, never should you allow them to take away your dignity. Because true wealth is not in what you possess. It is in what you do not allow them to take away. And I had recovered the most valuable thing, my self-respect. I closed the watch. The tick-tock resonated in the silent night, and I smiled. Because finally, after so much time, I was at peace. And you listening to me from wherever you are, have you ever had to set boundaries when everyone expected you to keep giving everything? Have you had to choose your dignity over the love of someone who did not value you? Leave me your answer in the comments. Tell me your story. And write what state or country you are listening to me from. Because these stories are not just mine, they are ours. And by sharing them, we remind each other that we are not alone, that we are stronger than we believe, and that it is never too late to recover what belongs to us. Hit like if this story touched your heart. Share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more real-life stories. Because as long as there are women willing to get up after falling, there will always be hope. Until the next story, and remember, your dignity is not negotiable. Never.